I saw my daughter-in-law fling a leather valise straight into the water and speed off without even a backward look. I rushed toward the bank, fighting against the sticky mud that tugged at my feet and hauled the drenched bag from the depths. My fingers trembled uncontrollably, almost letting it slip away. That's when the faint noise reached me, a soft, stifled whimper from within. "Lord, please don't make this what I'm fearing," I murmured, my shaky hands struggling with the sodden fastener. It resisted at first, but eventually yielded. In that moment, my pulse froze solid. The sight inside hit me like nothing in my 63 years had ever done, sending ice through my veins. I'm Eleanor, though folks know me as Ellie Whitlock. At 63, I've rattled around solo in this place ever since laying my sole son, Marcus, to rest 8 months back. Our home, tucked along the edge of Lake Juniper in the backwoods of Georgia, once rang with joy and echoes of good times. These days it looms empty and hushed. On that September day, I was nursing a glass of iced tea out on the rear deck when a flicker of movement drew my eye. The shiny silver car owned by Sloan, my son's wife, came tearing along the gravel path, stirring up a heavy plume of dirt. She barreled along at a reckless pace, way too fast for those twisting lanes. Clearly, trouble was afoot. I placed my glass on the rail and strained to see clearer. Sloan hit the brakes hard by the water's brink, leaving the motor idling. She leaped from the vehicle like something evil was hot on her heels. Her cheeks burned red, her locks disheveled. With a fierce tug, she popped the rear hatch. I figured she'd wrench it clean off. There it was. That tan leather case I'd gifted her on her wedding day to Marcus, saying it was for hauling your hopes anywhere life took you. I'd later confessed how naive that sounded. Sloan wrestled the luggage free. It weighed a ton. Her frame buckled under it, her limbs quivering. She shot quick, uneasy glances all around, her expression laced with shame. That guilty stare haunts me still. Sloan. I called from the deck, but she either missed it or chose to ignore me. She trudged to the shoreline. Each footfall looked agonizing, like she bore not only heft but some dark secret. She heaved the case once, twice, and on the third swing she hurled it into the lake. The impact broke the calm of the day. It bobbed briefly on the surface before starting its grim plunge downward. Sloan dashed back to the sedan. The motor growled to life. The wheels spun wildly on the stones, and she disappeared along the lane, abandoning only eddies of dust and a heavy quiet. I froze in place for several heartbeats. What on earth had unfolded? Sloan, the bag, the water, the raw frenzy in her actions. A chill gripped me, even in the warm sun. Before my thoughts caught up, my body took over. I bolted down the steps, through the grass, and onto the slippery edge. The water lay just 300 feet off. I sprinted as I hadn't in decades, ignoring the ache in my joints and the fire in my lungs. I pushed on. At the margin, I panted heavily, my pulse thundering. The case lingered there, drifting, inching under. The hide gleamed wet and burdened. Without a second thought, I waded in. The chill hit sharper than anticipated, climbing my legs to the hips. The ooze below clung to my soles. I stretched for a strap and tugged. It resisted fiercely. I pulled with all my might, my muscles straining. Splashes hit my features. My outfit clung sodden. At last I reeled it toward solid ground. Then came the noise again, a faint choked sob from the depths of the case. Dread surged through me. Impossible. Lord, don't let it be this, I begged aloud. Panic fueled my efforts. I dragged it quicker. I lugged the valise onto the damp shore and dropped beside it, knees buckling. My palms groped for the pull tab. It stuck fast, slick and corroded. My grip kept failing. "Work with me," I hissed, jaw clenched. Sobs welled up, clouding my sight. I yanked again and again. It relented at last. I flipped open the top and time halted. My heartbeat stalled. Breath caught in my windpipe. Palms clamped over my lips to muffle the wail. Nestled in a dripping sky blue wrap lay an infant. fresh-born, so small, so delicate, so motionless. His mouth held a bluish tint, his flesh ghostly white, his lids shut tight. No stir at all. Heaven help us, no way! My grasp quivered beyond control as I cradled him. With unexpected gentleness, I drew him from the case. He felt frigid, utterly frozen, lighter than a sack of earth. His little skull nestled in my cupped hand. The cord from his birth remained bound by plain string. String, not a proper clamp, like some hasty, hidden deed done alone. No, 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 I repeated softly. I leaned close, cheek to his torso. Nothing. Utter void. I pressed my face close to his tiny nose, catching the slightest whisper of breath. So faint I wondered if it was real, but it persisted. He was hardly inhaling, yet he was alive. I staggered upright, hugging the infant tightly to my body. My knees almost gave way beneath me. I dashed toward the house quicker than ever before. Rivulets poured from my soaked garments. My uncovered soles tore open and bled on the jagged trail. Pain didn't register. All I knew was fear, haste, and the frantic drive to rescue this fragile bundle quivering in my grasp. I exploded through the doorway, howling. Words escaped me, perhaps pleas for aid, cries to the divine, or just raw noise. With one arm, I snatched the kitchen receiver while cradling him securely. I punched in 911. My digits fumbled over the buttons. The device almost slipped free a couple of times. 911, what's your emergency? Inquired a steady woman's voice. A baby. I discovered a baby in the lake. He's unresponsive. He's freezing. He's turning blue. Hurry, please send someone. Ma'am, take a breath. Give me your location. I stuttered out the details for my spot by Lake Juniper. The dispatcher directed me to lay the infant on a level spot. With a single sweep of my arm, I cleared the kitchen counter. Plates, documents, all tumbled down in a clatter. Priorities had shifted. Nothing else counted. I settled the baby there, utterly minuscule, delicate, motionless. Is he breathing? I screeched into the phone, my tone shrill and alien. Check for yourself. Watch his torso, any rise and fall. I peered intently, hunting for the tiniest shift, barely noticeable, requiring me to bend nearer. Yes, I believe so. It's faint. All right, pay attention. I'll walk you through it. Fetch a fresh cloth and pat him dry softly, then bundle him to retain heat. Helps en route. I followed her cues precisely. I rushed to the bath for linens. With awkward, urgent strokes, I wiped his small form. Time dragged unbearably. I swaddled him snugly in spotless fabrics. Scooping him back up, I nestled him to my torso. Without thought, I started swaying gently, an old maternal urge resurfacing. Hang in there, tiny soul, I murmured. Just hold on. They're on their way. They're coming for you. The wait for the sirens felt endless, the most agonizing stretch I'd endured. I collapsed onto the kitchen tiles, the baby warm against me. I hummed tunes. I can't recall which, perhaps the lullaby for Marcus in his early days, or mere babble. I only wanted him aware of company, of embrace, of a will for his survival. The wail shattered the quiet. Crimson and ivory beams pierced the panes. I bolted to the entrance. 2 rescuers leaped from the vehicle, a seasoned fellow with silver stubble and a youthful lady whose locks were tied in a tail. She lifted the infant from my hold with brisk precision that shattered me inside. She assessed him swiftly, drew forth a listening device, and checked. Her expression stayed neutral, though her posture stiffened. Critical chill exposure, maybe inhaled fluid, she informed her colleague. No time to waste. They eased him onto a compact stretcher, fitted a breathing apparatus, their motions blurred, attaching leads, screens, unfamiliar gear. The man glanced my way. You riding along? It rang more like a command. I boarded the rig, wedging into the narrow bench. My gaze locked on the child, dwarfed by the machinery. The vehicle sped off, alarms blaring, scenery streaking by. How'd you come across him? The attendant queried while tending. Stuffed in luggage, tossed into the water, I witnessed it. She met my eyes, then his. A flicker crossed her face. Worry, doubt, or compassion. Spot the person. My lips parted, then sealed. Sloane, my son's spouse, Marcus's bereaved, the one who wept like her life crumbled at the service. The very same who'd attempted to submerge an infant. How to voice that? How to accept it? Yes, I admitted at last. I know who did it. We reached Atlanta Medical Center in under 15 minutes. The ER portals swung wide. A swarm of staff in pale and verdant attire engulfed the stretcher. Voices barked figures, jargon, directives. They wheeled the baby beyond swinging panels. I lunged after, but a caregiver blocked me. "Ma'am, remain out here. The team's on it. We require your details." She guided me to a lounge area, beige walls, molded seats, antiseptic scent. I dropped into a chair, trembling violently. Was it the damp chill or the trauma? Likely the pair. The caregiver settled opposite, older than the attendant, near my years. Her badge, Nurse Diane. Gentle creases framed her gaze. "Walk me through it all," she urged gently. I relayed the sequence from spotting Sloane's vehicle to unzipping the case. Diane jotted entries on her device. She bobbed her head, staying silent throughout. Once I wrapped up, she let out a heavy breath. "The authorities will need to question you," she mentioned. "We're dealing with an attempted murder here, possibly even more severe." Attempted murder. The phrase lingered in the room like ominous shadows. My son's spouse, my daughter-in-law, turning killer. It was beyond comprehension. I simply couldn't wrap my head around it. Diane rested her palm on top of mine. "You made the correct choice. Today, you preserved a young life." Yet that didn't capture my emotions at all. Instead, it seemed like I'd unearthed a horrifying truth, one impossible to bury again, a revelation destined to alter my world irrevocably. 2 hours ticked by before a physician approached me. He appeared youthful, around 35 perhaps. Dark rings shadowed his eyes, and his fingers carried the sharp scent of sanitizer. "The infant is holding steady," he informed me. "Right now, he's in the NICU. He's endured extreme hypothermia and inhaled fluid. His breathing is impaired. The coming 48 hours will decide everything." "Will he pull through?" I whispered, my words cracking. "No guarantees," he admitted starkly. "Our team is pulling out all the stops." The cops showed up about 30 minutes after. 2 of them, a female officer in her 40s, her locks secured in a severe ponytail, and a junior guy scribbling details. The woman presented herself as Detective Sergeant Ava Johnson from the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. Her gaze, sharp and piercing, cut straight to deceptions. They grilled me repeatedly, shifting perspectives each time. I recounted the vehicle, the precise moment, Sloane's actions, the luggage, every detail. Ava observed me with a scrutiny that stirred unease in me, despite my innocence. "And you're positive it was your daughter-in-law?" "Absolutely certain, no doubt." What could drive her to such an act? No idea. Her whereabouts now? No clue. Last conversation with her prior to this. 3 weeks back, on the date marking my son's passing. Ava jotted a note. She shared a glance with her colleague. "You'll have to visit the station tomorrow for an official account and stay away from Sloane. No outreach whatsoever." Clear. I dipped my chin in agreement. What words could I even offer her? Why attempt to end an infant's life? Why discard him into the water like refuse? Why? The pair departed. Diane came back bearing a throw and steaming tea. "Head home, recharge, swap out your outfit," she urged. But leaving felt impossible. That child couldn't be left solo in the medical facility, the very one I'd cradled close, who had gasped his final spark of optimism while nestled against me. I remained in the lounge area. Diane fetched spare attire from the facility's supply, medical garb and an oversized tee. In the restroom, I swapped clothes, staring at my reflection. The face gazing back seemed a decade older from just that single day. Sleep evaded me through the night. I perched on that rigid seat, eyes fixed on the timepiece. Hourly, I'd rise and inquire about the little one. The staff repeated the update, holding on in peril, battling hard. Around 3 a.m., Reverend Thomas from my congregation appeared. Evidently, word had reached him. He settled beside me quietly. For ages, he offered no words, merely company. At times, that's sufficient. A companion, evidence you're not utterly isolated in torment. The Lord challenges us through countless paths, he uttered at last. This strikes me more like a plague than a trial, I countered. He inclined his head. He skipped any pushback, and that restraint meant more to me than flowing rhetoric. As daylight crept in, I realized the shift was permanent. I'd breached a boundary. I'd witnessed an indelible horror. Whatever followed, I'd confront it head on. For that infant, that fragile soul struggling for each inhale nearby, now fell under my watch. This burden wasn't sought, yet forsaking him was out of the question. Not following the rescue from the depths, not after sensing his pulse sync with my own. Daybreak snuck upon me unnoticed. Rays filtered into the lounge, casting a soft amber hue over all. I'd endured the full darkness in that unyielding seat. My spine throbbed. My vision stung. Still, departure wasn't an option. Shutting my lids replayed the bag submerging. The motionless form, the chilled mouth. Diane arrived at 7 a.m. with brew and a wrapped egg sandwich in foil. "Fuel up a bit," she insisted, handing them over. Appetite was absent, but I consumed regardless, as she lingered expectantly. The drink scalded my mouth. The food mimicked dry pulp, yet I forced it down. I munched mechanically, feigning ordinariness on an everyday dawn. "The baby's condition remains steady," Diane noted, taking a seat nearby. "Core warmth is climbing. Lungs are mending with the meds. Positive developments. Might I visit?" She declined. "Too soon. Relatives restricted. Plus, his kin are a mystery." Kin. The term struck like a blow. That child possessed relatives, including a parent, Sloan, who'd sought his demise. Then, the dad. His location. Why had no one did the cops report the kid as missing? Doubt swirled in my mind without any resolution. Around 19th, Ava came back. She arrived solo this round. She took a seat opposite me, clutching a file under her arm. Her face was stern, probing. She stared at me like I was under investigation. "Ellie, I've got a couple more things to clarify," she announced, flipping open the folder. "I've shared all I remember already." "I get that, but a few discrepancies have popped up." Discrepancies? The term hung in the air like a veiled charge. My gut twisted. Like what? Ava pulled out a snapshot and set it on the low table dividing us. It showed Sloane's vehicle, but parked in a lot, not near the water. The image came from a store's surveillance footage, snapped at a market 30 minutes away the day before, right at 5:20 p.m. 5:20 p.m. Just 10 minutes following my supposed sighting by the lake. No way. I scrutinized the picture harder. It matched her ride, tags, and everything. But that's impossible. Must be some error, I insisted. I witnessed it. I stood right there. I watched her toss the bag. "You seemed certain," she noted, though my tone rang hollower by the second. Ava inched closer. "Ellie, level with me here. What's the deal between you and Sloane? You two on good terms." And just like that, the core inquiry hit. The one I'd anticipated ever since the authorities arrived. Truth was, we weren't tight. Never were. The instant Marcus brought her around, I sensed trouble. She came off too polished, too scheming, too fixated on his engineering paycheck. "We're distant," I conceded. "Do you hold her accountable for your boy's passing?" "Excuse me." My reaction boomed, overly sharp, overly guarded. Just a straightforward query. "Do you fault Sloane for Marcus's demise?" The crash. That's how folks labeled it. Marcus had been heading back from a meal with her. Rain poured down. The wheels lost traction, smashed into a tree. He perished on impact. She escaped with barely a scrape. It struck me as odd back then. Too tidy, but evidence, none. only a devastated mom hunting for a scapegoat. I fail to see the link to the child. It ties in completely, Ava stated, snapping the folder shut. See, we can't track down Sloan anywhere. She's disappeared. Place is deserted. Cell's dead. And you're the sole one insisting you spotted her yesterday. Her statement crashed over me like a frigid wave. She was pointing fingers, subtly sure, but the implication screamed loud. She figured I'd fabricated the tale that I'd sourced the infant differently and pinned it on Sloan for payback. I didn't fabricate anything, I replied, teeth gritted. What I saw was real. Then we've got to locate Sloan pronto. If she's the infant's mom, that little one's at serious risk. If not, we're dealing with a deeper puzzle. Ava rose, passing me her contact card. Any fresh recollections, even minor ones, give me a ring. She exited, abandoning me amid a storm of uncertainties. I remained seated, card gripped tight, questioning my sanity. I'd encountered Sloan. Absolutely. Yet uncertainty crept in, toxic and slow. Suppose I erred. Suppose it was another figure. Suppose my sorrow and bitterness conjured illusions. At noon, Reverend Thomas reappeared. He clutched a set of prayer beads. Ready to pray, he offered. Faith isn't my strong suit, it never has been. But right then, I craved something greater than my turmoil, a sign I wasn't isolated in the chaos. I agreed. We murmured prayers side by side. The routine phrases soothed my nerves, regardless of the mechanics. Once done, I felt marginally mended. The authorities suspect I'm fibbing, I revealed. Truth surfaces eventually, he assured, time or no time. But time was scarce. The infant battled on, fragile, and out there Sloan lurked, concealing, fleeing, or scheming ahead. By 3 p.m., another physician approached. This one, an elder lady, sporting heavy lenses and a grave demeanor. We require your consent for tests on the child, she explained. I'm no relative. Understood, but you're the designated guardian for now. Services for kids' protection are en route, yet we must proceed urgently. Blood tests are essential. We have to check for underlying issues, drug exposure, hidden wounds. I authorized the forms, barely skimmed them. All I cared about was ensuring they did everything possible to preserve him. 2 hours on, the caseworker arrived. Marcy struck me as youthful, perhaps overly so for the role. Around 25, I'd guess. Cropped locks, neutral attire, a courteous grin that fell flat. Ms. Whitlock, she greeted, settling next to me. Let's discuss your circumstances a bit. I know you discovered the child, the narrative repeated, the inquiries recycled. Yet Marcy differed. No distrust in her gaze. Instead, compassion, which cut deeper somehow. Do you reside by yourself? She inquired. Yes. Do I have a steady source of income? There's my deceased husband's pension and a bit of savings. No criminal history, though I've dealt with mental health stuff. Depression, anxiety. I paused for a moment. Following Marcus's passing, I'd been on antidepressants for 3 months. My physician explained that mourning can occasionally require medication to ease it. I quit once I began improving. I'd gone through depression after losing my son, too. I owned up to it, but that's behind me now. Marcy jotted a note. I couldn't make out what it said. The infant will require a short-term placement once he's discharged from the medical center, she explained. If discharge happens, Child Protective Services will seek out approved foster homes. Until then, he'll stay under state care. State care. That phrase shattered a piece of me. The little one I'd cradled to my heart, who drew his initial breath while nestled in my embrace, was about to be passed to outsiders, to bureaucracy, to folks who'd view him merely as paperwork, merely a statistic. What if I stepped in? The question slipped out before I could rein it in. What if I wanted to look after him? Marcy eyed me, first with astonishment, then doubt. Ms. Whitlock, you're 63. You're not licensed as a foster caregiver. You share no official tie to the child, and you're tangled in an ongoing police probe. I didn't commit any crime. I rescued him. I get that, but procedures must be followed. The child's welfare takes priority. Honestly, Your age and your fresh emotional challenges are things we can't overlook. It stung like a sharp blow. Too aged, too shaky, too damaged. Perhaps she had a point. Perhaps it was foolish to even entertain the idea. Yet when I shut my eyes, the only image was that delicate form, and I realized nobody else on earth could cherish him the way I would. That evening, I returned home after 36 hours away. Diane talked me into it. She insisted I freshen up, rest in my own bed, that the little guy was stable, and they'd reach out if the situation shifted. I headed back as dusk settled. The water shimmered to my right. I pulled over right where I'd spotted Sloan, where I'd retrieved the bag. I stepped from the vehicle, approaching the shore. The bag had vanished. Authorities had seized it for evidence, but I could pinpoint its former position. I spotted my own tracks in the cracked earth. I lingered there as night descended, pondering if I'd ever uncover the facts, if Sloan might be observing from afar, if I'd grasp what truly transpired. Then my cell buzzed. The clinic was calling. My pulse froze. "Ms. Whitlock," Diane's tone urged, "you must return immediately." I sped to the facility, blowing past every speed restriction. My grip shook on the wheel. My chest thumped so fiercely it drowned the motor's roar. Diane had withheld specifics on the line. Merely, "Come back right away." That brief command flooded my mind with nightmarish possibilities. The infant had perished. It had to be. What other reason for such haste? He'd battled for 2 days, and at last his frail frame surrendered. I hadn't acted swiftly enough. I left the car at an angle, hogging 2 spaces. I dashed to the ER entrance. Diane stood there to greet me. Her face was grave. Yet there was an odd glint I couldn't quite read. "He's holding on," she assured me at once, reading my fears. "The baby's still with us, but follow me." She guided me through unfamiliar corridors. We rode the lift to level 3 beyond the nursery and continued on. At last, we entered a compact meeting space. There sat Detective Ava, Marcy the caseworker, and an unfamiliar gentleman. He seemed around 60, clad in a somber suit with spectacles. His features screamed attorney. "Have a seat," Ava instructed, gesturing to an empty chair. I sank into it. My limbs wobbled like gelatin. Their stares pinned me, stirring an urge to flee. "We've got the DNA report back from the baby's tests," Ava announced. Her statement landed like pebbles in still pond. DNA. I couldn't fathom the purpose. What were they after? I finally asked as the quiet stretched too long. Ava glanced at the suited man. He gave a nod, flipped open a file, and extracted a stack of documents. He slid them toward me. "It's a male child, born roughly 3 days back, per the exams." Ava hesitated. "And Ellie, he's your grandson." Time halted. The declaration defied logic. I registered the sounds, but my thoughts rejected them. My grandson. Unthinkable. Marcus passed 8 months prior. No offspring, no expecting mother, zilch. "That's not possible," I murmured. "The findings are airtight," the suited man affirmed. "I'm Dr. Ernest Soto, expert in genetic forensics. We double-checked the analysis for accuracy. The infant matches about 25% of your DNA. He's unquestionably your blood grandson, Marcus's boy." Marcus's boy. My Marcus. It felt like a sledgehammer to the ribs. Marcus had fathered a child unknown to him, a child somebody had attempted to submerge in a pond. But why? My words came out faint and far away. Marcus passed away 8 months back. Sloan hadn't breathed a word about expecting a child. "Really?" Ava asked, shifting closer. "Sloan was carrying a baby during the crash. Based on our timeline, she got pregnant roughly a month prior to Marcus's passing, so she must have been aware." The space around me swirled. Sloan had known about the pregnancy at the moment Marcus died. Why keep it secret? Why conceal it for 9 months? Why deliver in hiding and then attempt to end her baby's life? "It makes no sense," I muttered. My eyes began to well up, vision hazy. What could drive her to that? He's her boy, Marcus's boy. That's the key we need to uncover, Ava replied. But hold on, Ellie. Pay close attention to this next part. I tensed up. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I sensed it would hit harder. We've dug into your son's crash, and discrepancies popped up. Serious ones. Like what? The vehicle was inspected post-incident. The initial findings blamed a slide from the downpour, but we pushed for another look. Traces of tampering showed in the braking system. Somebody tampered with it. The revelation landed like an explosion. Tampering, homicide. My boy didn't perish in a mishap. He'd been taken out deliberately. Sloan, I uttered. It wasn't really a query. She's our top person of interest, Ava confirmed. Yet we require evidence, and we must track her down. She's gone off the grid entirely. No phone activity. No access to her finances. It's as if she evaporated. I rose from the seat. I had to pace. I craved fresh air. I headed to the pane. Beyond it, the urban sprawl sparkled under countless illuminations. Everyday existence. Ordinary folks. While I languished in this horror. My boy, I breathed onto the surface. My little one. She ended him. Silence hung heavy. Nothing left to utter. A touch grazed my back. Marcy was there. One final detail you should hear, she murmured gently, regarding the infant, his prospects ahead. I spun to face her. Her gaze held warmth, yet sorrow. Since the child's your genetic grandchild, you're entitled to legal claims. You could seek guardianship. She raised a palm to halt me. It'll drag on. Expect assessments, inspections at home, mental health sessions. Meanwhile, the little one stays under state protection. No way. It burst from me like a growl. You won't snatch him away. He's my sole remnant of Marcus, my kin, my lineage. I get it, Marcy assured. Truly I do. Still, procedures exist, and given the chaos, we prioritize the child's security. He'd fare better under my watch than with outsiders, surely, though that's not my call. A court decides, focused on his welfare. Dr. Soto broke his silence after the first bombshell. We face another element, too. The infant endured intense injury, chilling cold, almost suffocation by water. The coming weeks are vital for his growth. He'll demand expert treatment, counseling, round-the-clock health oversight. I'll go to any lengths, I declared. Anything required. Ava rose. Ellie, grasp this clearly. You're cleared of suspicion. We accept your account, but you can't just claim him due to blood ties. Protocols demand steps. Right now, our focus is locating Sloan. Your input matters. In what way? Recall anything from Sloan. A favorite spot, some land, a confidant or kin where she might hole up. I shut my eyes. Memories flooded of chats with Sloan over the 3 years of her union with Marcus. Sparse and surface level, she dodged family topics. Her history stayed buried. She seemed to emerge from thin air on the day she encountered Marcus. An aunt. It hit me abruptly. Northward, close to the boundary. Marcus let it slip once. He noted Sloan was raised by her in a town named Tucson. Ava jotted it swiftly. Her name. No clue. Marcus kept that vague. It's something to pursue, Ava noted. We'll probe it. The others departed save for Diane. She lingered in the stark, vacant meeting space. Care to meet your grandson? She inquired. I dipped my head, words failing. She escorted me past secured entrances to the neonatal unit. She had me scrub up, don a clean coverall. Then she directed me to a bassinet tucked in the shadows. There lay my grandson, Marcus's offspring, tiny and delicate, linked to lines and monitors, yet vital, inhaling, resilient. He bore Marcus's raven locks, Marcus's profile, Marcus's slender digits. May I hold him? I breathed. Of course, softly now. I slipped my palm via the access port. I caressed his minuscule grip. It felt velvety, heated. His wee digits curled round my pointer. Instinctual, yet it seemed like a vow. Hi there, tiny soul, I murmured. Your Nana's here, and I vow to shield you. No harm will touch you anymore. I pledge it by your dad's legacy. Diane rested her palm on me. He requires a name, she added. whispered gently. It would serve as a temporary entry in the hospital files until we located the mother or a court ruled on an official name. Marcus had always dreamed of calling his firstborn Elijah, in honor of my dad. He'd shared that wish with me one Christmas evening over dinner. If it's a boy, his name will be Elijah. Elijah, I repeated. That's what we'll call him, Elijah. I remained by his side through the night, perched beside the incubator, grasping his tiny fingers, humming the lullabies I'd once crooned to Marcus, vowing him a life full of promise, one I wasn't sure I could deliver, but I made the pledge regardless, because the reality had finally sunk in. This infant wasn't some random soul I'd stumbled upon. He was my flesh and blood, my kin, the sole remnant of the son who'd been taken from me in cold blood, and no one was going to pry him from my grasp. Not the authorities, not Sloan, no one at all. The ensuing weeks turned into a maddening tangle of red tape. Each dawn at 5 a.m., I'd rise, freshen up, get ready, and head straight to the hospital. I'd linger by Elijah's enclosure all day long. Come afternoon, the interrogations kicked off. Attorneys, caseworkers, officers, they all arrived clutching documents, firing inquiries, judging whether I measured up to nurture my own grandchild. On day 3, Marcy appeared bearing a checklist of demands. She droned through it in a flat tone, like she was reading specs from a gadget's guidebook. A criminal record search, full psych assessment, physical checkup, proof of earnings, house evaluation, endorsements from 3 unrelated contacts, plus a mandatory 40-hour parenting class. 40 hours, as though I hadn't already guided a kid all the way to grown-up status, as if I'd forgotten the basics like swapping out a soiled diaper or prepping bottles. Yet I held my tongue, merely dipping my head and accepting the sheet she offered. "How much time does this drag on?" I inquired. "With good fortune, 6 weeks. Otherwise, 3 full months. 3 months. My grandson would spend that in temporary placement while I navigated this maze of paperwork to show I was worthy of caring for him. And in the interim, what becomes of him? Once discharged, he'll join a vetted interim foster home. He'll get adequate attention. You'll have supervised access twice weekly. Twice a week watched over, like I posed some danger, like I hadn't been the one who pulled him from the water. That evening, I reached out to Reverend Thomas. I required endorsements. Folks to vouch that I wasn't unhinged, that I had the chops, that I could handle it. He dropped by my place the following morning, settling into the kitchen with a mug of the very tea I'd brewed for Marcus in his youth. "Naturally, I'll stand by you," he assured me. "You're among the toughest souls I've met. That boy's fortunate to have you in his corner." But strength. That wasn't how I saw myself. I felt worn out, exhausted, fearful. At 63, how could I keep up with a toddler by 65, guide him through schoolwork at 70, witness his diploma ceremony if I lasted to 80? This is beyond me at my age, I admitted aloud for the first time. Reverend Thomas peered at me across his steaming cup. Sarah bore Isaac at 90. When love's in the mix, years are merely digits. I yearned to trust those words. I truly did. By the 4th day, Diane walked me through tending to Elijah, cradling his delicate skull, swapping his pint-sized nappies, warming the milk to precisely the right warmth. My fingers shook initially. I'd lost touch with how breakable new lives are, how utterly reliant, how alarmingly frail. "You're handling it well," Diane encouraged whenever doubt hit me. But it didn't seem solid. It was like teetering on a fragile sheet of ice. One slip, and the whole world could shatter. On day 5, Ava came back with updates. "We've tracked down Sloane's aunt," she announced. "She resides in a little community 60 miles from the border, close to Tucson. Officers spoke with her, and she claims no contact with Sloane for 2 years. They argued, apparently. Sloane still owes her $3,000. Cash. Everything circled back to cash where Sloane was concerned. Marcus pulled in a solid $7,000 monthly as an engineer, with savings tucked away and a $200,000 policy for life insurance. Sloane stood to inherit it all. Has she collected? I pressed. Ava confirmed with a nod. 4 months back, the full $200,000 hit her bank. 2 weeks on, she funneled it to an overseas setup in the Cayman Islands. We're pursuing leads, but it's tricky. $200,000, the worth she placed on my boy's existence. And she'd stashed it in some shady offshore spot while scheming to end his child's life. Why? The query that haunted my sleepless nights. Why end the baby? She could have surrendered him for adoption, dropped him at a clinic. Why attempt to submerge him? Ava paused at length before responding. We've got a hunch, she revealed at last. Digging into Marcus's accounts uncovered something key. Just 2 weeks prior to his passing, he updated his estate plans. He directed it all to any offspring down the line. Not Sloane, to his kids. The breath escaped me. Marcus had sensed it. By some means, he'd learned of the pregnancy and adjusted things to shield his boy. She took his life for the payout, I murmured. That's our view, she agreed. Then she realized the funds would pass to the infant if he survived birth. So she resolved to get rid of him as well. The sheer cruelty of her actions stunned me into silence. She had ended my son's life. She had brought the pregnancy full term. She had delivered the child by herself. And afterward, she had attempted to smother her newborn in the water, all in pursuit of cash. Do you have sufficient evidence to charge her? Once we locate her, absolutely, but she's vanished for now. She's clever. She realizes the authorities are hunting her. Time dragged on, with days blending into weeks. Elijah gained strength steadily. The medical team withdrew the tubes gradually. He began respiring independently, nourishing himself, and wailing with robust, vigorous cries. It felt like a true wonder of medicine. The physicians noted that no infant enduring such trauma ought to recover this rapidly, yet I sensed it went beyond medical care. It was sheer determination. It was Marcus's unyielding essence inhabiting that fragile form, battling onward, enduring, rejecting defeat. I fulfilled every prerequisite. The criminal background review returned spotless. The physical assessment confirmed my fitness given my years. The mental health assessment proved the most challenging. A bespectacled young lady grilled me for a full 3 hours. How did you handle your boy's passing? What are your thoughts on Sloane? Are you seeking to substitute Marcus with this infant? That final query hit hard. I'm not substituting anybody, I replied. I'm rescuing my grandson. It's not the same. She jotted a note. I couldn't tell if it favored me or not. The house evaluation felt degrading. A pair of women scrutinized every nook. They peered into cupboards, inspected the fridge, gauged the window frames for safety, tallied the smoke alarms. They inquired about my crisis evacuation strategy. You'll require an approved bassinet, a diaper station, barriers for every set of steps, latches for drawers, plugs for electrical sockets. I shelled out $800 I couldn't afford on infant gear. My retirement income scarcely met my everyday costs. I dipped into my nest egg, but it didn't matter. Elijah merited every penny. The parenting seminar was the most grating, surrounded by 15 youthful moms, with me as the outlier. They eyed me like some disoriented elder who'd stumbled into the incorrect session. The teacher was just 25. She detailed basics I long mastered at a patronizing pace. Infants require feeding every 3 hours. Infants fuss when famished or soiled. Never jostle an infant. I bobbed my head and scribbled away. Despite the urge to shout that I'd nurtured a child into maturity, that I grasped it all perfectly, but I required that credential. So I bit back my ego and feigned absorption. 6 weeks following the discovery of Elijah in the water, Marcy appeared at the facility bearing a faint grin. You've satisfied all the criteria, she announced. The court will examine your application next week. Should things proceed smoothly, temporary guardianship could be yours in a fortnight. 2 weeks. Following 42 days of administrative torment, I could at last bring my grandson to my place. Yet that very evening, as prospects brightened, my cell buzzed. It was Ava. Her tone carried urgency. "Ellie, head to the station immediately. We've uncovered something. Regarding Marcus, you must view it." I reached the station with a twist of dread in my gut. Ava greeted me by the door. Her expression held unusual gravity. She guided me through tight corridors to a questioning chamber. A plain box sat on the surface. Within lay items I knew from Marcus. His billfold, his timepiece, his shattered device, the possessions returned post-incident. "What's this about?" I queried. "We've at last cracked his device," Ava explained. "Our expert toiled over it for weeks, and we discovered this." She retrieved a craft folder, unsealed it, and laid out multiple printouts across the surface. They depicted captured chats between Marcus and Sloan from 2 weeks prior to his demise. I scanned the initial one. From Marcus to Sloan. "We must discuss this. Learned of the child." Sloan's reply. "No idea what you mean. Marcus once more. I located the test in the lavatory. Why keep it from me? A gap of 3 hours, then Sloan. I wasn't prepared to share. I felt afraid. Afraid of what? I'm your spouse. We're becoming parents. This is joyous." Another pause. "Then I don't wish to keep it. I crave adventure, freedom, not anchored by an infant. It's our boy. It's no error. Please don't phrase it so. We can manage. I'll support you. My mom will assist. I reject support. I demand my existence restored." The exchanges escalated in fervor, Marcus beseeching, Sloan rebuffing, until I arrived at the final set the evening preceding the crash. "Sloan, I've consulted an attorney. Should you choose against the child, I'll seek divorce. And if you bear it yet refuse to parent, I'll pursue sole guardianship. I won't permit harm to my boy. Marcus, you'll rue this, Sloan. Does that constitute a warning?" No further response. The following day, Marcus perished. I allowed the documents to drop. Sobs flowed freely down my cheeks. "She murdered him," I uttered. "She ended him to thwart his safeguarding of the infant." "That's our assessment," Ava confirmed, "and there's additional evidence." We reviewed Sloan's call logs from that period. She contacted a freelance auto repairman, Calvin Jones, on 3 occasions. We bro. They brought Calvin in for interrogation. At first, he clammed up completely, but once we presented the proof of those bank wires from Sloan, $2,000 deposited the day prior to the crash, he cracked and spilled it all. He confessed that she'd compensated him to tamper with Marcus's brakes. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I had to collapse into a chair. Sloan had orchestrated the whole thing. She'd brought in a hitman to take out my boy and disguised it as a freak mishap. What drove Calvin to stoop so low? Mounting debts from his gambling addiction. He was in hock for $15,000 to some ruthless types. Sloan dangled $2,000 up front and another $3,000 down the line. He bit. Now he's locked up, charged as an accessory to murder. As for Sloan, we've got an arrest warrant out for her on first-degree murder and attempted murder, yet she's vanished without a trace. She's elusive as a shadow. I lingered in that chilly interrogation room, absorbing the full weight of it. My son had perished while shielding his child, and now that child lay in the hospital, clinging to life after his own mom had attempted to end him. The sheer viciousness of it crushed me. "What's next?" I inquired. "We stay on the hunt. Her pictures circulating at all airports, border points, with alerts at clinics in case she alters her looks. Eventually, somebody will spot her. No one stays hidden indefinitely." Yet doubt gnawed at me. Sloan had revealed a cunning and icy resolve beyond my worst fears. If she'd mapped out Marcus's death with such precision, she'd likely crafted a flawless getaway scheme, too. That evening, I returned to the hospital. I positioned myself by Elijah's incubator, observing his peaceful slumber, utterly pure, unaware of the nightmare enveloping him. His mere presence had sealed his dad's fate. His mom had sought to snuff him out, and I alone barred the path between him and a bureaucracy that'd reduce him to mere paperwork. "Your father adored you," I murmured softly. "He gave his life to safeguard you. I'll carry on his battle." You have my word." Diane arrived bearing coffee. She settled beside me, quiet for a spell. "I caught wind of those texts," she ventured at last. "I'm truly sorry." "Marcus showed a side of steel I never knew," I replied. "He'd always been tender, big-hearted, yet in those exchanges he emerged as a fierce defender, primed to battle for his little one. Love has that power," she noted. "It unlocks reserves of fortitude you didn't know existed." She nailed it. I sensed it stirring in me too. I'd never viewed myself as tough, but here I was, challenging the authorities, racing the clock, pursuing a runaway murderer, all for this infant. The ensuing days focused on getting ready. I transformed Marcus's bedroom into a haven for Elijah. I stripped away the posters of rock icons, the sports awards, the snapshots from his university days. I coated the walls in a gentle pale yellow. I put together the fresh bassinet, the diaper station, the tune-playing mobile with its soothing melodies. It tore at my heart to undo my boy's private retreat, but it had to be done. Marcus was no more. Elijah breathed, and he deserved a place to thrive. Reverend Thomas stopped by to consecrate the space. He dashed holy water into the crevices. He invoked blessings for Elijah's safety, my resilience, and retribution for Marcus. "The Lord has designs," he assured me. "Though we may not grasp them fully, what sort of design claims an upright soul and almost dooms an infant?" I retorted sharply. "One that forges salvation from wickedness. Sloan aimed to shatter this household, yet see the outcome. Marcus forged an enduring mark. You've uncovered fresh meaning. This child defied the impossible. Darkness lost. Affection triumphed. I yearned to embrace his words. On brighter days, I did. On darker ones, shadows loomed large. The custody hearing fell on a Tuesday. I donned my finest attire, the very outfit from Marcus's memorial. Marcy came along. We entered a modest courtroom. The judge, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and a tight bun and a stern yet compassionate demeanor, pored over my paperwork, the birth records, endorsements, assessments, the residence check summary. She scrutinized each sheet with exacting care. At length, she raised her gaze. "Miss Whitlock," she addressed me. "I've examined your application thoroughly. It's quite unconventional, a 63-year-old seeking guardianship of a newborn, but it's equally rare for a grandmother to rescue her grandson from the depths." My pulse thundered so fiercely, I figured the room could hear it. "I've consulted the medical staff, the welfare officers, your supporters, and they unanimously affirm you're committed, affectionate, competent, that this little one was fortunate to have you nearby that fateful day." Tears threatened to spill, but I restrained them. I've also delved into the legal proceedings, the allegations that the mother slew the father and then targeted the child. It's appalling, beyond comprehension. This boy requires security. He craves warmth. He demands a guardian. A drawn-out, agonizing silence followed. Thus, I'm awarding interim custody to a Leilani Whitlock for 6 months. In that span, Child Services will conduct regular check-ins, performance reviews, and after those 6 months, we'll assess permanence. Well done, grandmother. The gavel banged down, and just like that, air rushed back into my lungs. Tears poured out of me right there in the middle of the courtroom. Tears of sheer relief, deep thankfulness, lingering terror, and a flood of other feelings. Marcy pulled me into a tight embrace. "You pulled it off," she murmured softly. "Despite everything stacked against you, you made it happen. Now you can bring him back with you." 3 days on, exactly 6 weeks since I'd rescued him from the water, I finally brought Elijah home. Diane assisted as I secured him in the car seat. She went over it all once more, the proper way to cradle him, feed him, spot any warning signs. "He'll turn out okay," she assured me. "And if anything comes up, I'm only a call away." I crept along at 12 miles per hour on the drive back. Each jolt in the road sent shivers of fear through me. Any vehicle lingering near my place set my nerves on edge. Still, we made it without incident. Carrying Elijah inside, I headed straight to his nursery and settled him into the crib. He seemed tiny and exposed in there, so fragile. Yet he was drawing breath. He was surviving. For the moment, he was secure. Those initial weeks with Elijah under my roof proved tougher than anything I'd ever faced. I'd lost track of just how draining it is to tend to an infant. The endless wakeful nights, the unexplained wails, the non-stop worry that I was messing up somehow. In my 30s, I'd manage Marcus with the vigor of youth. Now, at 63, each restless evening wrecked me completely. Yet there were these enchanting instants too, like when Elijah's little fingers wrapped around mine, or when my voice soothed him to quiet, or those petite, shadowy eyes, just like Marcus's, fixed on me as though I was his entire universe. In those glimpses, I realized no amount of fatigue could outweigh the reward. Diane dropped by 3 times weekly. She shared tips I'd long since forgotten, simpler methods to get him to burp, snug wrapping techniques for deeper sleep, ways to decipher his various whimpers. She evolved beyond a mere caregiver into a true companion, a vital support. "You're handling this amazingly," she'd say each visit, though I never felt amazing. Terror gripped me instead. Any odd sound after dark jolted me awake. Slow-moving cars by the house kept me on high alert. Sloane remained at large out there. Despite the cops insisting she'd likely skip the border, I couldn't dispel the sense that she lurked nearby, observing, biding her time. I added heavy-duty locks to every entrance, mounted surveillance cams by the front, wired in a direct line alarm to the authorities. It cost me another $800 I could ill afford. But safeguarding Elijah, that had no price tag. One evening, 3 weeks after his arrival, I stumbled on something unexpected. While sorting through Marcus's packed-away belongings, his outfits, volumes, documents, I uncovered a faded, leather-bound notebook at the base of a carton. Marcus journaling. That was news to me. My hands shook as I flipped it open. Early sections dated back years, musing on his job, his buddies. Nothing earth-shattering. But soon I reached the notes from his final year when Sloane entered the picture. "Crossed paths with someone special today," one from 4 years prior stated. "Sloane's her name. Stunning, clever, enigmatic. She pulls me in, though I can't pin down why. She fascinates me." I pressed on. Mentions of Sloane multiplied. Marcus was smitten, utterly enchanted, yet hints of unease crept in. At times, I wonder if I truly understand her. Family topics. She dodges them. Probing gets me nowhere. Feels like her story starts with us. Further along, spotted Sloane rifling my financial records. Claimed mere interest, but it sat uneasy. Why snoop without a word? Then the passage that froze me solid, stamped a month shy of his passing. Sloane's expecting. Confirmed with the test, but confronting her sparked rage. She insists on no baby. It'd destroy her plans. How could she think that? This is our boy. That day, I updated my will. All assets to the child. Sloane's not getting near the funds. Not with her eyeing $500 heels, $1,000 purses. She craves excess. But a child isn't some trinket. It's existence itself. I'll shield it no matter what. The final note came from his last day. Sloane issued threats today. Said I'd rue pushing on the pregnancy. Unclear what she means, but it terrifies me. Heading to Mom's tomorrow to spill it all. Perhaps she'll guide me. One thing's certain. I won't let Sloane endanger our boy. I'll guard him forever. He never got that conversation with me. That evening claimed him, and I stayed oblivious to his pleas for aid, his mounting dread, the peril closing in, too swiftly for escape. "Forgive me," I breathed to the pages. "I'm so sorry, darling. I should have sensed it. Spotted the trouble. But the past stays fixed. All I can do is defend what's ahead." The following day, I handed the notebook to Ava. She pored over it, her expression hardening page by page. "This is key proof as the prosecutor," she declared. "Proof of intent, proof of incentive. Once we track Sloan down, it'll seal her fate." "So when's that happening?" I pressed. "It's nearing 2 months now. We're pursuing every lead. It's possible, but she's clever. She likely slipped out using forged papers. She could be in any corner of the world. Yet 3 days on, the whole situation flipped. While I was giving Elijah his bottle, my phone buzzed. Caller ID showed unknown. Usually I'd ignore it, but an instinct pulled me to pick up. "Hello," I uttered. There was quiet, just heavy breaths, followed by a familiar tone that hit me like ice. "Ellie, this is Sloan." Chills shot through me. I nearly let Elijah slip from my grasp. I scanned the room, half expecting her to lurk in the corners. "Where are you calling from?" I forced out. "Location's irrelevant. What's key is I've got info you crave, and you're holding what I desire. Nothing from you appeals to me. I've got the real story on Marcus's death, the reasons behind my actions. Bet you're dying to hear it. I already possess the facts." I pored over Marcus's diary. "I learned you offed him for cash. You're a beast," a sharp, joyless chuckle echoed. "A beast. So theatrical. You grasp nothing, Ellie. Marcus wasn't the angel in your eyes. Don't you even—" I bellowed. "Don't you dare badmouth my boy. All right then. Call the cops if you must. Fine. The second you end this, I'll vanish. I use disposable phones. I'm no fool." Thoughts whirled in my head. I needed to prolong the chat, somehow capture it all. I switched to speaker mode. With my other hand, I snatched my phone and hit record. "What's your demand, Sloan? I demand my child back. Your child. You attempted to submerge him. That was an error, a flash of insanity. Fear gripped me. Confusion overwhelmed. I just delivered him solo. I was lost, but I've improved. I need my infant returned. Not a chance. Not while I breathe." "That could be fixed," she replied with eerie poise. "Pay attention. I require Elijah, plus Marcus's inheritance, the $200,000 insurance payout, plus the full $300,000 trust he set for the kid. That makes $500,000 altogether. $500,000. All the earnings Marcus toiled for, every penny he stashed, intended solely for his heir. And should I deny you, then I'll hunt him down. As his birth parent, the law favors me over you. Once authorities nab me, I'll claim they swiped my child. They intimidated me. They fabricated that lake incident to hold on to him. My testimony versus yours, and I'm younger, more believable, easier to pity. Vertigo hit me, yet I kept the recording going. How can I trust you won't slaughter us both and seize it all regardless? You can't, but it's your sole choice. Deliver the child and funds to the abandoned boathouse lakeside. You recall the spot where you and Marcus fished. Midnight tomorrow, solo. Spot any law enforcement, and I'm out. You'll lose me forever. In time, I'll still pry Elijah from your clutches. Sloan, hold on." But the connection had cut. I froze, quaking. Elijah cradled in one arm, device in the other. Proof in hand, Sloan lived and she'd menaced me. I dialed Ava right away. I forwarded the file. "Ideal," she responded. "This seals it. We'll lay an ambush, head to the rendezvous acting the part, but we'll lurk concealed, ready, and the moment she appears, we take her. Suppose it backfires. What if she spots the badges and bolts? She won't detect us. Guaranteed. Snipers at vantage points, squads in the dark. Escapes off the table now. As for Elijah, he remains with Diane in a secure spot. You're faking the handover." I agreed, though she couldn't view my nod. Just one more night. All I had to do was endure. One more night, and Sloan would answer for Marcus, for Elijah, for the devastation she'd wrought. Sleep evaded me that evening. I lay alert, gazing at Elijah's peaceful form, etching his features into memory, bracing for the worst, in case disaster struck, in case he slipped from my life. "Your father cherished you," I murmured, "and I adore you. Come tomorrow, we'll lock in your safety for good." The following day dragged like molasses. Minutes stretched to hours, hours to forever. At 9 a.m., Diane arrived for Elijah. I filled his diaper bag as if for a full week away, praying it'd be mere hours till reunion. Nappies, milk, spare outfits, his beloved blankie. My fingers trembled, folding each piece inside. "He'll thrive under my care?" Diane assured, scooping Elijah close. "I've got your contact. Cops know my spot. Harm won't reach him. Word of honor." I pressed a kiss to Diane's brow, then to Elijah's cheek. His tender flesh carried the scent of lotion and optimism. "Love you, my sweet," I breathed. "Grandma's return is imminent." I observed their departure. Diane's vehicle faded from view, ripping a chunk of my heart, yet it was vital. Elijah needed distance, protection. Should chaos ensue? Ava showed up at 2 p.m. alongside 3 colleagues, 2 guys, 1 lady, all undercover, all packing heat. They transformed my lounge into Ops HQ, cluttered with notebooks, our farewell, along with charts of the surroundings near the boathouse. "Let's review the strategy once more," Ava announced, unrolling a map across my kitchen table. The boathouse sits right here, deserted for 5 years now. It features 3 access points, the front, a side door, and the back. Our squads will guard each one. She indicated spots on the diagram using a crimson pen. Marksmen positioned over there and there atop the neighboring structures. They'll get unobstructed sights into the space via the shattered panes. The entry unit waits at the rear, set to breach the instant we spot Sloan. "So what's my role in this exactly?" I inquired. My tone came out steadier than my nerves. "You'll enter, converse with her, and prolong the discussion. We require her admission. She murdered Marcus, attempted to take out Elijah. A concealed mic will be on you, capturing it all." One agent, a lanky fellow in his 30s, produced a tiny gadget the size of a button. "Attach this to your attire here," he directed, gesturing beneath my collarbone. "It relays audio live. Plus, there's an emergency trigger. Hit it thrice consecutively and we rush in regardless." He demonstrated its function. I rehearsed the rapid triple press. My survival hinged on recalling that sequence. Should she demand to view the infant, claim he's in the vehicle, insist on chatting beforehand, on grasping her motives, stroke her vanity? Types like Sloan adore rambling about their exploits. Encourage her to gloat over her cleverness. The following hours flew by as we dissected particulars, anticipating every contingency, responses if Sloan carried a weapon, if companions were present, if chaos erupted. My mind reeled from the overload. Come 8 p.m., they forced down a tasteless ham sub that resembled paste, yet I devoured it entirely. Fuel was essential. Vigilance was crucial. By 10 p.m., the mic was secured on me. They ran sound checks multiple times. I recited lines, tallied to 10, yelled, murmured, ensuring flawless operation. "Keep this in mind," Ava urged, locking eyes with me. "You're not isolated inside. I'll monitor every syllable. The crew lingers mere steps distant. At the first hint of true peril, we charge. Nothing bad will befall you." I dipped my head in acknowledgement. I yearned to trust her words, yet dread twisted like an icy serpent in my gut. At 11:15 p.m., we departed. I piloted my vehicle. Ava rode shotgun, huddled low to evade external views. "Remaining units are in place," she updated via comms. "Sharpshooters set, back squad prepared, borders locked down." We reached the boathouse by 11:40 p.m. It matched my recollections precisely. Weathered, crumbling, fractured glass, surfaces scrawled with tags. Marcus and I frequented this spot in his youth. We'd angle from the pier astern. Easier days, joyful eras. Ava slipped from the auto in a concealed angle from Sloane's potential surveillance. She melted into obscurity. Solitude enveloped me. I glanced at the timepiece. 11:55 p.m., mere minutes remained. I shut my lids. Memories of Marcus flooded. His grin, the tender way he uttered "Mama," visions of him as a dad. Thoughts turned to Elijah, his prospects the joys he merited, existence free of terror, peril, lurking threats. The witching hour struck. My cell buzzed. Message from an anonymous sender. Enter solo immediately. I exited the car. Chill evening breeze nipped. My exhalations fogged visibly. I advanced to the boathouse's primary entrance. Each footfall boomed in the quiet. The portal hung ajar. I nudged it wider. Hinges groaned. The noise reverberated off barren surfaces. Within, gloom reigned, near pitch black. Slivers of lunar glow seeped past cracked openings, casting eerie silhouettes. "Sloan," I uttered. My words emerged feeble, timid. "Seal the entrance," commanded a figure from the murk. Sloan's timbre. I complied, shutting it. Gradually, my vision acclimated to the dimness. There she stood, amid the boathouse core, clad in somber garb, ebony pants, a pullover with hood. She appeared altered, slimmer, locks cropped short, bleached golden yet unmistakably her. "You arrived," she noted. A trace of astonishment laced her tone. "You mentioned desiring dialogue. I demanded my child and the funds. Where might they be?" "Explanations precede that. I seek motives. Why eliminate Marcus? Why target Elijah?" She chuckled, that familiar icy resonance from the call. "What do you suppose, Ellie?" The cash, obviously. Marcus played the naive dreamer, prattling on about affection, kin, tomorrows. I craved liberation. Journeys, vitality, unbound by domestic drudgery and wailing infants. Then why wed him? He engineered for a living. Solid income, nest egg, policy on his life, a smart wager. I'd bide 5 years, split, claim my share. But conception derailed it all. Her utterances dripped poison. "Everyone scorched me. You insisted you rejected the pregnancy." Naturally, I did. No, but Marcus grew unbearable. He altered his will, leaving it all to the infant. So I adjusted my plans. If he passed away during my pregnancy, the policy would pay out to me, while the child claimed the remainder. The fix was straightforward. Eliminate Marcus, deliver the baby, then dispose of him as well. Retain it all. She was spilling every detail, each phrase captured, broadcast live. The authorities eavesdropped, yet I required additional proof. You enlisted Calvin to tamper with the brakes. $2,000. A steal given the $200,000 windfall from the payout, the smartest outlay I've ever made, and the infant, your biological child, merely a hindrance, no less. I delivered solo in a secluded shack, paid for in bills. Nobody suspected my condition. I donned loose attire. I steered clear of crowds. Once he arrived, I considered ditching him in some remote spot. But memories of the lake, your and Marcus's old haunt, surfaced. It felt fitting to conclude it where your quaint family ritual began. Nausea washed over me. Fury surged. Every ounce of global loathing focused on the figure before me. Yet you botched it. I rescued him. Sure, that was frustrating. But it changes nothing. I'm here to complete the task. Where's Elijah? Ellie, I won't hand him over. It wasn't up for debate. Then I spotted the firearm. She drew it from her hoodie, compact, dark, aimed squarely at my torso. Final warning. Where's my boy? I hit the alert button once, twice, thrice. You'll never lay a hand on him, I declared. Her digit shifted toward the trigger. Time dragged in agonizing slowness. The muzzle flared, the bang echoed. Impact struck my shoulder, scorching, searing. I toppled back. Suddenly, the boathouse erupted in chaos. Entrances flew wide. Harsh beams pierced the air. Shouts rang out. "Police! Weapon down! On the floor! Immediately!" I watched Sloan pivot. I saw rifles trained on her. I noted her encirclement. For an instant, I figured she'd fire once more. I imagined her provoking them to end her. Instead, she gradually dropped the pistol. It clattered to the ground. She lifted her arms. 3 cops lunged, slamming her prone and cuffing her wrists. She howled curses, vows of vengeance, but none of it counted. She was in custody. Done. Ava rushed over, dropping beside me. "Ellie, hang in there." "I'm okay," I croaked, despite the agony tearing through my shoulder. "You nabbed her. Confirm it." "We did. All finished. Don't move. Medics en route." I shut my eyes. Sufficient. At last, resolved. I roused in the medical center once more, though now it contrasted sharply. No longer defeat, but serenity, tranquility. My shoulder throbbed from the graze on the tissue, sparing the skeleton. "Fortunate," the physician noted. "A single inch rightward, and it'd have pierced your vital organ." Diane sat nearby, cradling Elijah. As my lids parted, she grinned. "See who's stirring," she murmured, leaning in. "One little guy couldn't wait for you." With my uninjured limb, I scooped up Elijah, nestling him close. He carried the scent of talc and promise. Soft gurgles escaped him, the delicate coos of contented infants. "Hey, my darling," I breathed. "Nana's all right. All sorted now." Ava arrived shortly after. She carried blooms and a weary grin. "Feeling any better?" Like a shooting survivor, I quipped, yet breathing. What's Sloane's fate? In custody. Facing top-tier murder charges for Marcus, assault attempts on Elijah and you, alongside a slew of offenses, plotting, deceit, tampering with justice. Lifelong lockup, no release chance. The verdict tasted like nectar. Retribution. Indeed, the audio captured flawlessly. Full admission. Her attorney claimed duress, alleging you compelled the statements, but the panel viewed the complete footage. The draw, the blast. No pity granted. Half an hour's debate. Convicted across the board. Over the ensuing weeks, healing dragged on. Rehab for the wound stung, yet proved essential. Diane visited often to tend Elijah during my lifting limitations. Reverend Thomas delivered meals. Acquaintances from the block appeared with dishes and warm sentiments. "True champion," remarked the woman from the end lot. "Endangering yourself for that child like that." Still, heroism eluded me. I simply embodied a guardian gran, safeguarding her kin as any would. 60 days post Sloane's apprehension, another court session loomed with the magistrate. This occasion varied. The judge beamed while scanning the files. "Ms. Whitlock," she addressed, "I've examined the recent half-year summaries, welfare checks, Elijah's health assessments, advancement notes, and I'm thoroughly struck." My pulse raced. "Elijah flourishes under your watch. He's hitting every growth marker, robust, joyful, cherished, and you've demonstrated beyond doubt you're more than capable. Capable in spite of the obstacles. Thank you, Your Honor. As a result, I'm awarding complete and lasting guardianship of Elijah to a Leilani Whitlock, starting right now. Moreover, since the birth mother is serving a lifetime sentence and has relinquished every parental claim, I'm approving steps for adoption should you choose to move forward. Adoption to render him fully mine, not merely his grandma holding custody, but his official parent. Absolutely, I replied instantly. Absolutely, I intend to adopt him. In that case, let it be formalized. Well done. The gavel struck, and in an instant the burden I'd shouldered for so many months vanished. It was done. Elijah belonged to me. Nobody could snatch him from me ever again. I stepped from the courthouse cradling Elijah. He was 8 months along by then, plump and content. He grinned, revealing a pair of minuscule teeth. He giggled as I jostled him gently. He tugged at my hair with his pudgy fingers. Diane and Reverend Thomas stood waiting beyond the doors. They embraced me tightly. The three of us shed happy tears there on the courthouse stairs. "You pulled it off," Diane remarked. "Despite everything stacked against you, you triumphed." That evening, I prepared a festive meal, or as festive as possible with an infant demanding non-stop care. I called over Diane and Reverend Thomas. We savored roasted chicken alongside rice. We raised glasses of apple juice in cheers, seeing as alcohol wasn't for any of us. "To Elijah," Reverend Thomas proposed, lifting his drink. "To the promising path ahead." "To Marcus," I chimed in, who's gazing down from above, beaming at his boy. To affection, Diane chimed, the force that forever overcomes wrongdoing. We sipped, we dined, we chuckled. Elijah thumped his high-chair tray and squealed in glee, oblivious to the words but soaking in the surrounding joy. Seasons blurred into ages. Elijah thrived. He took his initial steps. At 11 months, his debut word rang out as Nana. Tears streamed down my face hearing it. By 2, he dashed through the home endlessly. At 3, he began nursery school. Each achievement felt like a wonder, each morning a treasure. I shared tales of Marcus with him endlessly. I displayed pictures. I recounted memories. Your father was a fine soul, I explained. Courageous. He cherished you prior to even knowing you. He sacrificed himself to shield you. Daddy hero, Elijah echoed in his toddler tone. That's right, darling. Daddy was a hero, and you'll mature into someone just as kind, as bold, as caring as he became. I held back details about Sloan. That revelation would wait until he matured, until comprehension dawned. For the moment, he simply had to grasp that he was cherished, that he was desired, that folks had battled fiercely for him. On Elijah's 5th birthday, we hosted a gathering in the rear yard. We welcomed the local children. Balloons floated, cake abounded, gifts piled up. Elijah dashed between playmates, bursting with laughter, brimming with vitality. So unlike the pale, motionless infant I'd rescued from the water 5 years prior. Diane settled beside me on the veranda, observing the festivities. "What's on your mind?" she inquired. "That moment," I confessed. How a mere 5 minutes delay might have changed it all. How glancing from the window at precisely that instant could have been missed. How fate might have twisted otherwise. Yet it didn't unfold that way. You discovered him. You rescued him. It was meant to be yours. Or Marcus's, I mused. At times, I believe he directed my gaze toward the water that afternoon, that he sensed I'd be present, that he relied on me to safeguard his child. "Who knows?" Diane replied. "Or maybe you're simply a remarkably valiant lady who wouldn't surrender." That evening, once the guests departed, once Elijah drifted off worn out from the revelry, I lingered solo in the den. I gazed at the framed images on the walls. Marcus in infancy, Marcus at commencement, Marcus on his nuptial day, and alongside them, the fresh captures. Elijah fresh from birth in the ward, Elijah mastering his debut strides, Elijah on his initial school morning. 2 lineages linked through devotion, divided by sorrow, bound by endurance. "We succeeded, Marcus," I murmured to his picture. "Your boy is secure. He's joyful. He's developing resilient and upright, precisely as you hoped." And though I realized he offered no reply, a sensation washed over me, a gentle glow, a serenity, as though he lingered nearby, beaming, thankful, serene. Perhaps you'd have surrendered in my shoes. Perhaps you'd have deemed yourself too aged, too weary, too shattered. Or perhaps you'd have mirrored my actions precisely. For that's love's essence. It renders you tougher than you ever dreamed. It spurs you to battle amid utter defeat. It uncovers light amid the profoundest shadows. The tomorrows remain a mystery to me. Trials will arise. Tough stretches will test us. Nurturing a youngster at my stage won't come simply, but I also recognize that each moment alongside Elijah is a blessing. Each grin, each embrace, each "I love you, Nana." Gazing at him slumbering calmly in his chamber, the space that once housed his dad, I behold more than the boy. I see the vow I tendered to my child, the vow I tendered to my spirit on that harrowing lakeside day, the vow to guard, to cherish, to persist unyieldingly. Certain folks claim it was mere chance that drew my eyes to the window at that. Some folks call it coincidence. Others insist it was destiny. Perhaps it blended elements of each. Or maybe Marcus was steering me from a realm we can't quite grasp. One thing I'm certain of. The instant I spotted that valise submerging into the water, the moment I caught that weak noise emanating from within, The second, I sensed Elijah's fragile pulse pulsing against my body. I realized life had shifted forever. And honestly, I'm thankful for that turn. Thankful for the little one resting beneath my roof. Thankful for the opportunity to gaze into Marcus's eyes once more, to catch his chuckles resonating off these aged walls. Thankful for the chance to embrace love anew, to discover meaning, to sense that amid all I forfeited, I acquired something invaluable. Sorrow visits everyone eventually. It arrives unannounced, rapping at our threshold when we're unprepared. It steals loved ones, treasured aspirations, the comfort we assumed eternal, yet what comes afterward. That's the query that shapes our essence. When Marcus passed, I might have yielded to sorrow. When I witnessed Sloane hurling the valise into the water, I could have recoiled in terror. I might have claimed I was too aged, too frail, too shattered to parent once more. But I opted to resist. I opted for affection. I opted to trust that from the ruins of profound bereavement, fresh beginnings can emerge. And they have. He's called Elijah. Right now, he's 5. Come tomorrow, 6. One day, he'll reach 20, 30, 40. A fully formed individual with his personal ambitions, affections, perhaps even offspring of his own. I can't say if I'll witness it all. Likely not. Still, I recognize I sowed the beginnings. I recognize I provided him sturdy foundations and the freedom to soar. I recognize I shared tales of his dad, of the devotion Marcus held for him prior to his arrival, of the bravery required to shield him. And that must suffice. On evenings such as this, once the home quiets and just the steady rhythm of the antique clock persists on the wall, I reflect on the person I once was before that lakeside incident, the one fractured by mourning, dwelling amid echoes of yesteryears, allowing time to drift by aimlessly and without optimism. She seems almost unfamiliar to me these days for the individual I've become, the one pursuing a 5-year-old across the lawn, affixing crude sketches to the fridge, soothing injured limbs with kisses, banishing shadows from beneath the mattress. That person possesses a resilience I never dreamed possible. It all stemmed from a decision, the decision to dash toward the water rather than flee from it, the decision to pry open that sodden valise despite my spirit howling in dread over its secrets. The decision to battle for tomorrow when yesterday's weight felt unbearable. It proved no simple path, no effortless voyage. There were periods when my spine throbbed so fiercely from cradling an infant that upright posture eluded me. There were evenings when unending wails pushed me to the edge of weeping. There were instances when doubt crept in, questioning if I'd erred, if it was self-centered to imagine mothering again at my stage in life. Yet Elijah would beam at me then. He'd utter "Nana" in that tender tone. He'd drift off in my embrace, relying on me for protection. And in my core, I understood no error had occurred. I'd fulfilled my destined role. Ava and Diane remain woven into our world. Ava drops in now and then, bearing treats for Elijah, inquiring about our well-being. Diane has evolved into a near-aunt figure for him. She escorts him to the playground each Sunday, instructs him on avian life and foliage, offers that additional warmth every youngster needs. Reverend Thomas sanctifies our dwelling annually at Christmas. He reminds me that Elijah embodies evidence of divine enigmas, turning devastation to victory, anguish to intent. As for Sloane, she endures a lifelong term with no release in sight. She'll never threaten Elijah or another soul again. At times, I ponder if he crosses her mind, if remorse stirs within, if even a flicker of parental warmth ever warmed that icy core. But recalling her expression as she cast the valise into the depths provides clarity. Certain individuals lack the capacity for affection. Sloane numbered among them. Her concerns centered on wealth, liberty, her whims alone. She viewed Elijah as a hindrance, not the wonder he represents. Her forfeiture became my fortune. For each dawn, I rouse to pattering steps along the corridor. My chamber door swings wide and Elijah leaps onto my bedding, his ebony locks tousled, his gaze, Marcus's gaze, alight with dawn's potential. "Morning, Nana," he exclaims, wrapping his small limbs around me. In that instant, every hardship, every exertion, every foregoing proves worthwhile. In that instant, I'd relive it all without hesitation. I'd confront Sloan. I'd endure the gunfire. I'd challenge the whole framework solely to claim this boy in my existence. When others learn our tale, they frequently label me remarkable, valiant, exceptional. But that's not how I see it. I simply feel like a Nana who acted as any Nana would. Shield her grandson no matter what. The real champion here is Marcus, the one who pierced Sloane's facade, who updated his will to safeguard his child yet to be born, who braced for a fierce fight over custody to ensure the boy's security. Marcus, who sacrificed everything for that deep affection. And the genuine wonder is Elijah, who defied every obstacle to pull through, who battled for each gasp in those vital initial moments, who restored the warmth to this home once shrouded in sorrow. As for myself, I'm merely the link connecting dad and child, the keeper of their legacies, the defender of what lies ahead. And that's plenty. It's beyond plenty. Enjoy the tale. And from which town are you tuning in? Let's connect below in the comments. If the story resonated, show your backing with a super thanks so I can continue sharing tales like this. A huge thanks for your kind backing. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Up on the screen, check out 2 fresh life journeys I strongly suggest. Plenty more awaits on my channel. Remember to hit subscribe. Catch you in the upcoming life tale. Warm regards and appreciation.